following is a candidates night sponsored by the Lions Club and organized by the Canton's Voter Guide Group. For more information online, go to cantonmavoterguide.com. The local election is April 2nd, 2024. The following candidates are for the Select Board. You can vote for up to 2 candidates, and they serve for 3 years. They are from left to right: Rita Lombardi, Mike Longren, Trish Boyden, and Tom Theodore. The moderator is Cindy Thomas.
While there are many interesting and important issues for this evening's forum, we have prioritized those questions focused on the future, not the past, and we have avoided issues that we feel have been heavily discussed in other forums. We've tried to choose questions that will allow each of the candidates to differentiate themselves and to be fair and are fair for both new candidates and incumbents to be able to answer. I will also note that none of the candidates received any of the questions in advance. For our candidates, because I know many of you weren't here when we got started, we will start this evening with an opening statement for each of you. Then we will ask questions on a rotating basis. In some cases, we may ask a follow-up question. If we ask a follow-up, it will be asked of every candidate. When speaking, you are asked to use the handheld mic, and you folks will just need to pass it back and forth. The other mics on the table are for cable. We have a timekeeper, Krista Merliani is kind enough to do that. We do ask that you respect the time. Part of our effort today is to be fair to all of our candidates. They all get the same questions. They all get the same amount of time to respond. And so we want to make sure that we respect that. So do your best to keep your answers concise and to the point. To the candidates, we ask that you're respectful to each other, that you do not interrupt your fellow candidates, and remind you that any time you use to respond to a fellow candidate's response lessens the time you have to tell us about you. And to the audience, please hold any applause or comments. Please respect your neighbors, both in the audience and on the stage. And finally, a reminder that this session is being recorded by Canton Community TV and will be broadcast, and we think it's going to be sometime this weekend that the broadcast will be available. Please encourage your neighbors and friends to watch. So we will go ahead and begin with our select board members, and let me come up with my questions. So we are going to start. First, I'm going to make some tweaks in time. Originally, we were only going to give you a minute and a half for your opening statement. After we watch the library trustees, I'm making an executive decision. So but it's not going to be 2 minutes. So please introduce yourself and share your experience and how you think it will help you if elected. You each will have 2 minutes for your response, and Kristen will give you warnings at 1 minute, 30 seconds, and when you're done. And we're going to start with Mike Longren.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Michael Longren. I am currently the clerk on the select board, and I am seeking re-election. I have a degree in business management and have worked in the software industry for over 20 years, working for startups, mid-sized companies, and at the end of my career, I was the senior manager of North American operations for Intel, working on projects with teams from around the world. Several years ago, I decided to reinvent myself and become my own boss. I run a highly successful small business in Canton, and I couldn't be happier with my decision. I started the girls' fast pitch softball program in town over 12 years ago, and I served on the board of directors for Canton Little League, first as the VP of girls softball, and then several years as the treasurer. I have volunteered my time serving on the JFK School Council and then the Galvin Middle School School Council. From there, I became interested in town government and served on the finance committee and then on the school committee before running for the select board 5 years ago. I am a candidate that has a proven track record of working with others to get things done. I have worked with other departments, committees, and residents to get scoreboards, dugouts, fencing, batting cages, and the JFK Snack Shack bathroom project. I have worked with committee members to draft the school master plan, as well as submitting the initial application to the state for the new middle school project. As a member of the select board, I have worked with my fellow board members to acquire the St. Gerard's property, navigate the town through the COVID pandemic, negotiated a pilot program for .32 that was very favorable to the town, after our biggest taxpayer, Reebok, left. I will always do what I think is best for the town of Canton. I support our great history, our diverse community, open spaces and fields, and of course, our schools. We have a lot to be proud of, and we have a lot that we are working on in the coming years. I hope you will allow me to use my experience and collaboration skills to work for you and all of Canton.
Thank you, Mike. Next, we'll go to Rita.
Hi, I'm Rita Lombardi, and I moved to Canton in 1979. When I was 19 years old, I moved here because my dad lived here. He was born here and lived his childhood years here. My ancestry goes back 118 years here in Canton, which I'm very proud of, and was the main reason that I moved to Canton, because I knew that I had ancestors here, and it was always home to me, and Canton has always been my home and my heart. For the past 30 years, I had a professional career as a leader in the private sector, and I ran customer service organizations. I either created teams from the ground up or turned around poorly performing teams. I successfully navigated extraordinary and chaotic challenges throughout my career. Every time I turned around a business area, I was given another business area. Oops, I got the time to turn around. Wow, that was quick. Okay, for the last 10 years of my career, I worked directly with the states on regulatory compliance. I am well aware of the state regulations and the need to adhere to them. I'm running for select board because I believe that with my private sector experience and the situation that this town is in right now, that it calls for somebody with my expertise. And by voting for me, you will get my 30 years experience of making things better with rapid results in record time. And I just think I'm out of time, so I could go on. They know.
So if you would pass the mic down to Tom, we'll go next. And we are going to be shuffling it around a little bit, so we don't have the same people following
Sure.
the same people.
Thank you very much for being here this evening. My name is Tom Theodore, and I am the current chair of this Canton Select Board. I'm also a lifelong resident of Canton. I'm a funeral director here in the town of Canton and a small business owner. I attended Canton Public Schools along with my children, so our roots are certainly in this town. In my addition to my role on the Select Board, I've served on many committees. I'm serving presently on the Community Preservation Committee. I'm chair of the Traffic Committee. I serve on the Reservoir Pond Advisory Committee, and past member of the People Site Task Force, and I spent many years on the Canton Parks and Recreation. And during my time on the Select Board, working along with other board members, we have acquired the property at St. Gerard's. I was instrumental in the revitalization of the Earl Newhouse waterfront, and I'm currently working on the installation of pickleball courts that are in great need, or great demand. And again, working along with the other select board members, we are working on the Galvin Middle School project. I take great pride in living in the sun like all of us. And by being on the board has allowed me to help citizens whenever problems have arisen. A few examples of these is in my past, some of the problems that we dealt with. I had a neighbor call me when I first got on the board, and he asked me for my help to rectify a situation. There was a amusement park, Tree Top Adventures, that was put into basically his backyard. He had an elderly mother, and for years and years and years, he was fighting this to have this moved. So it was in litigation, and I was told that it has to go through litigation. Okay, I'll go real fast. But long story short is, we found out after a few months of working with it that zoning was flawed, and that we had to move, and they got their home back. So.
So thank you, Tom, and I'm going to ask you to move it down to Trish Wood.
And Tatsy loves you for that.
Oh.
So, okay, so Trish Boyden, thank you Lions Club, and thank you the Kitten voter folks there. That was awesome. It's a great resource for this community. So I'm Trish Boyden. For those of you who don't know me, to talk a little bit about why the heck I'm sitting up here right now. I was born and raised in Canton. I love my community. My husband Gary and I raised our 2 children, Anthony and Alexandra, here. I've been volunteering since time began, from vice president fundraising at CAP when my kiddos were little, resurrecting CAPE, which is Canton Alliance for Public Education with Pam Berman, fundraising, then president of that. To, let's see what else. I was a 6-year member of NCL. It's a philanthropic and leadership group for girls, member, then 2 years as president, founding member of Sustainable Canton, founding member of Indivisible Canton, and working for a long time, on campaigns for both ballot questions and candidates. I'm running for select board now because I'm running for change. I'm running for transparency, accountability, modernization. I'm running for smart growth, inclusion, and most importantly, trust. That's all. I'll finish now.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to jump right into it now with our next question, and this is going to go to Tom. So get the, sorry, Tom. Everybody's going to have their first one. So do you support Canton's plans for complying with the MBTA Communities Act? And why? Yes or no?
Personally, I do not. But as a select board member, we have to adhere to the laws of the Commonwealth. Now, when this first was proposed in Governor Wells' administration, this became law, and now it's being pretty much enforced. But the things that concern me about this is if we don't adhere to this, we are we could lose grants. It started off at 4, now went up to 13 grants. Now, what gets me nervous is there was a project in Milton that was fully funded on a seawall. Now, when Milton rejected this at their special town meeting, they pulled that funding from that. So that being said, what gets me very nervous about this is I do not know how far the state will go with funding. I don't know if it will affect our Chapter 70 money, our Chapter 90 money, and again, we have to pretty much follow the letter of the law as a select board. Personally, I think it's an aggressive move from the MBI, from the town. And one thing that does confuse me is if this is about the housing, why hasn't this been done statewide instead of just along the MBTA communities? This involves 177 communities, and there's 150 that are not affected by this at all. To be fair, they're concerned about the housing, there should be a nationwide initiative.
Thank you. Next is Trish. This one, we're going to go straight down the line.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. I support the MBTA overlay district. I commend TJ Torres, our town planner, and the planning board for the work they've done on this. A brief, quick history is in 2021, Charlie Baker passed the law. And the reason why he did it is because biotech companies and others were saying, we can't recruit people to Massachusetts. It's, there's a housing shortage everywhere in the country. We live in an expensive state. So he decided to do this, and he thought the commuter rails towns will be less expensive than having people try to move into the city. And our 2 representatives, Bill Galvin and Paul Feeney, voted in favor of this. This is a half-mile district around the junction and then the Canton Center stop. And we're in a good situation anyway, because we have a lot of housing in those areas. And it's also not a mandate to build. It is simply saying we are going to go ahead and identify spots where it's simplified zoning, so a builder can go in and not have to deal with different zoning laws by town. So I'm fully in favor, because if not, we'll go ahead and get sued by the Commonwealth and then have no input whatsoever. And it's a law, a state law, and state law supersedes local law. So thank you.
Mike?
Thank you. So I'm not in favor of the MBTA zoning law. I think the law is a flawed logic. It is not a cookie cutter law that you can apply to any town or city that has a commuter rail. The state does not look at what the existing towns have already done to improve housing. For example, they don't count Paul Revere heritage site, and that's a mistake because we just did that. They're not looking at the towns individually to see what have you guys done to combat the housing shortage. You know, do you guys have a master plan, which Canton does? Although the plan that we have drafted does contain a zone that we think is likely for development, the overall zone is much, much bigger, and it includes parts of Chapman Street, parts of Sherman Street. So the example that I use is if Roche Rashad decides that they want out of the funeral home business, they can sell that property and the property that they own next to them, and that can turn into a 5-family house and forever change the look of Sherman Street. So there's no question that we need more housing in Canton. Right now, the supply is extremely low. This is not the way to do it. It's extortion by the state because they will hold back the grants if we don't do it. But they are allowing us to vote on this at town meeting. And then if town meeting doesn't pass it, as we've seen with Milton, the state will sue. So it's a good theory, but it needs to be looked at per town.
Thank you, Rita.
So on the MBTA Act, I researched it because I didn't know a lot about it, and I wanted to get educated on it. And what I learned is that the reason that the state has approved this is because the housing costs in Massachusetts is outrageous. And that impacts companies coming to this town, coming to Massachusetts to bring business in and bring jobs in for people. And it also impacts companies keeping those jobs here. So if it costs too much to live here, companies like the last company I worked for relocated to Kentucky. And so people are leaving because of the cost of living here. In looking at it, I did see that in December of 2021, that the Baker administration gave a 90-day period for towns and cities that were impacted by it to comment on it. And so the town of Canton had 90 days to comment on this. There were 400 comments and 24 informational sessions with the people that were expressed interest. So the window for us to comment and give feedback closed a long time ago. And so now it is law. I do support it because it is law. And, you know, we need to make it work. We need to understand what the land is and understand what it's going to, what impact, and make it work as best we can for the entire community. But it is law, so you know, it's not an option. We have to abide by the law. And if we don't, like Milton, we're going to get sued. And we cannot afford any more lawsuits. So I do support what is law.
Cindy, could I add something to that though?
Nope. Sorry, but we're trying to be fair to all of our candidates. So let me go on though to a related question. You've all expressed your position on this, and we know that affordable housing is part of this, but not all of the housing would need to be affordable. What steps do you think should be taken in Canton to ensure that we continue to increase our affordable housing and at a minimum, make sure we stay above the 10% number in order to avoid 40B? And I just added this question, so let me see what order we're going. Let's start with Trish, since you got the mic right down. Or, yeah, right there.
Okay, I did not expect that question, but I do have a short answer.
I didn't get mad.
Of all my homework. Okay, so regarding that, relating back to the MBTA thing, I just want to talk about one other thing, and it ties into your question. So it's with that, they're not, it would be like 15 units on 1 acre with a 30-foot setback. Like there's certain really good parts of it that's well managed, and 10% of that is affordable housing. Affordable housing is not subsidized housing. Affordable housing is for someone like my son who's 27 and can't get into the housing market. It's like you can make 86 grand a year to get like a 1-bedroom condo. So yeah, this also would help that, and that, like I said, 10% of it will be affordable housing, which again is not subsidized housing, and subsidized housing apparently gets people really nervous in this town, even though we have lots of it on Will Drive and Hagen's Court and Rubin Court and Lamplighter Village. But okay, I'm done. But that's all I just want to say. So I'm all for affordable housing. You have a minute left. I know, but that's okay.
So if you have to talk,
Okay, there you go, Tom.
and maybe your other comment will wiggle in here.
Now, one of the problems that we are coming up with in the year 2029, I think it is, right now we're at 11%. It should be at 10%, or once you get below 10%, your zoning laws are in jeopardy. Right now we're at 11%. So in 5 years, a lot of these properties that Tricia just mentioned will be coming off the list. So as a board now, we have been working with some of these areas in these complexes to try to work out something that we can take these things, whether it be a tax incentive or whatever we have to do to get these apartments, to get them into perpetuity, so we can alleviate this problem in the future.
Thank you. Let's go down to Mike and then we'll go to Rita.
So as I mentioned before, the demand for housing far outweighs the supply. Last week, I was talking to a realtor and there were only 6 units available for sale in Canton. So the steps that we've taken to try to combat this is a few years ago, we formed the Affordable Housing Trust. The Affordable Housing Trust is working on 2 separate projects. One is keeping Canton above the 10% threshold. As Tom mentioned, in the next 5 years or so, there are a couple of developments that when they came on board, we did not lock in the affordable rate in perpetuity. So they're about to come off the books. So one of the projects that we're doing is the town owns a unit at Copperworks and we are selling that. We are actively marketing that unit. And the proceeds of that are going to go into the Affordable Housing Trust account. And we can start to approach these developments and try to negotiate locking these in long-term in perpetuity. In addition, the Housing Trust is working on finding and creating affordable housing, not low income, but housing for our children that want to stay in the town they grew up in, housing for our teachers, police, firefighters, and town workers. When affordable units do come on the market, we aggressively market these to Canton residents and employees to give them a chance at home ownership in town.
Thank you.
Can you just repeat that question?
Sure.
I know they all answered it, but
No, that's okay. What steps should be taken to ensure that Canton continues to increase affordable housing?
we need to be aware of what the inventory is, what the needs are. We need to be looking at who's looking to come into our community, because it's not just the people that are in the community that want to be here. People want to come in from other communities, so we want to be welcoming. It's understanding what we have for land, what the master plan is, and where are our opportunities to put affordable housing, make it affordable for people to live here. This is an awesome town. We have so much history. People want to come here, and they shouldn't be priced out. And that's why that MBTA really makes a lot of sense on paper, from what I see, is because we'll put housing right near the transportation, and people want to live near public transportation so that they don't need to use their vehicles. And we need to look at all resources that we have and see what best suits us.
Thank you. Switching gears, weather records document that we're experiencing more heavy rainstorms, more drought, more days that reach 90 degrees or more intense windy storms. Our 2023 annual town meeting voted to create a climate action planning steering committee. As you consider the many competing demands for limited resources, where do plans to address the impact of climate change fit? And do you have any recommendations for our town?
Yes.
And we're going to start that one with Mike.
Mike.
Yeah, no, no.
Do you want me to repeat the question part? There was a lot there.
It was a lot there, if you don't mind.
So the question part of it was, as you consider the many competing demands for limited resources, where do plans to address the impact of climate change fit? Do you have any specific recommendations for our town?
So one of the hardest parts is figuring out the budget because everybody that approaches us has a valid request for staffing or improvement to their departments. So it is everybody competing for a very small amount of money. The climate action committee should be looking at what grants are available to try and help offset these potential requests. It's obviously something that's very important to the town. We've also started the sustainability committee. We're looking at solar powered panels on some of the town buildings that are on the school buildings now. So we are looking at that, but it is difficult to compete for these small amounts of funds that we have available after salaries are paid.
Let's move the mic to Tom.
There you go, dear.
Thank you. One of the steps that was taken is the initiative for the greenhouse, the energy green aggregation. And that's a good start. So where we've done with that is Tom Birmingham has taken the initiative to start a form group to promote green energy. Now, if you look at a lot of people were shied away from this program. They thought they were being forced into something that they really didn't know anything about. So Mike and I, we met with Tom Birmingham and we've gone out around the community to try to educate people that this is a good program. It's a good program because what rates can be locked in, you're for a 2-year period. There's different levels you can green that you want to do, or you can opt out, but whatever you like. But it's a start to try with green energy. And the constellation that planted up on the up by the old Canton Dam, that supplies a lot of the town buildings for our energy too. So
Let's pass the mic to Rita. Our really mixing it up here.
Okay, so what I heard the question was where do plans for climate change fit in? And my answer to that is climate change plans should be a top priority. We are in climate change. We see it every single day. I work for a company that its goal is to be 100% sustainable by 2030. I went to the company's headquarters and it is 100% sustainable. So it is achievable, and it is something we have to do not only for us today, but for our children and our children's children and future generations. So climate change is very important and addressing those issues. One thing that I mentioned recently at a select board meeting, because I do attend pretty much every select board meeting for the last 8 months, is the trash removal. That's another way that we can help the climate. When we increase the amount of trash that we throw away and take it from the regular trash and put it in recycle, that costs the town less, which is a savings to us, but it is also so much better for the environment because those products are going back into other products that we have that we are manufacturing. So it is very important to us, and we have the ability ourselves with lawn, I'm getting the sign. So, but we have the ability in our own homes to help with this climate initiative. And if we all get educated and we all get excited about doing this, we can make this a better planet and a healthier planet for all of us. We saw how everything was with COVID and the skies were cleared and the animals came out. And if we do better, if we change our behaviors, we can get to a better zeros, 100% sustainable or as much as we can. Time's up. And we're gonna go to Trish.
Thank you. So I have solar panels. We've had them since 2012. I drive an electric car. We are in climate collapse as far as I can see. I worry about my kids. I worry about my granddaughter. So first of all, shout out to the select board for the other night for approving the energy aggregation plan. That is awesome. And there's more we can do as a community, and hopefully we'll continue. One thing that I support is the adoption of, it's called the opt-in energy building code. And it doesn't cost taxpayers any money. And in fact, if they're building a home, it will save both the builder money and the homeowner money. Canton, back in 2017, became a green community. The stretch code helped qualify Canton. We got more grants. And if we get this opt-in energy code, it would raise us up to being a climate leader community, which would then allow us even more access to more grants and more funds so we can continue to bring our CO2 usage down, which we need to do post haste. Thank you.
So the next question relates to the former St. Gerard's property, I think now called 1860 Washington Street. And so I'd like to know for each of you what your vision is for the development of this property. And I'd like to start with Rita. And for this one, we'll just take it right down the line after Rita. Sure.
Okay, so I would like us to do studies to see which way it works best for us to develop that land, but I would like to see it used for the community. Community building is so important to us. We need to bring this community together. We need to make it fun and get things that people want to go to. We really have the library and we have the senior center. I was at the senior center recently. That is a beautiful gem, just like the library. And so the rest of the population in the town needs a center or something. So I think we need to work collaboratively as a town to see how we want to use that property. We paid for it, 3.2 million, I believe it was. It's ours. And how do we want to use it? How do we want to make memories? How do we want to have our children and children's children enjoy that property? I know we've talked about a dog park, maybe a dog park can go there. You know, I think we need to do a study to see what people want and then cost it out and figure out what makes sense. But we bought it, it's ours, and let's enjoy it and have fun. Mike?
Thank you. So the town has already formed a committee to decide the use of St. Gerard's, and they presented that to the select board a little while ago. The overall sense is that it should be used as some sort of community center. So as one select board member, what I envision for St. Gerard's is I would move our social services under one location. So veterans office, housing, and the senior center down there. I would allow for space for community, the Canton Community Theater Program, as well as practice space for any overflow at the schools and the Canton Choral Society. By moving the senior center to the old St. Gerard's property, what do we do with that? I would turn that into a teen center so that the kids have some place to go after school. A lot of times when the kids have a half a day, they end up coming down to the library. We worked on this when I was on the school committee, making sure that they had pizza and everything because they had no place to go. They couldn't go home because mom and dad were working. So we would give them another place to go. I would put that under Parks and Recreation, but the select board as a whole has not decided, and that'll be coming out soon.
Trish?
Thank you. In talking with different folks, like young mothers who are trying to get their kiddos into programs with the rec department, there's a real need for more indoor space. And then I met with Tyler Radiconi, the rec department head, and what he would love to see is sort of what Mike said, but I was thinking making St. Gerard's the community center there and moving the seniors where they are because it is a really nice space. And also, I would like to use that space to take voting precincts 4 and 5 out of the Kennedy School because I think that's an absolute death trap for the kiddos. Even though they say in for recess, but voting is from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Anyway, I think that space has a lot of, anyway, first the community center, then 2, the definitely a voting center. I'm done again.
We're gonna get to have more questions.
Okay, that's good.
Tom.
I want to see a high rise going this. Again, we had purchased this property back when it became available. The reason we purchased this property is we paid, it was $3.5 million. We did not have a plan for it. But if we had let this go by, like we had certain other properties in Canton, I think we would have regretted it. So we put together a committee to look into what would be the most common, most wanted for the use of that building. And like Mike had said, it's geared up toward more recreation. In the meantime, like you say, finances are tight right now, but we are utilizing that building. We have the food bank down there. There's a couple other things programs that they've been running out of there. So again, I think it's what I would like to see is, like you say, more of a recreation, more of a drop-in center for kids, because that's, if you get the kids off the streets in the afternoons, it's healthy for them.
Thank you. So our next question, it goes in a little bit of a different direction, and we're gonna start this one with Trish.
Okay.
Want to keep you all on your toes. What steps can be taken to support more productive engagement of residents in town government?
Great question, Cindy. It's funny, I was just talking about that this morning at a meet and greet, because I think there's so much opportunity for everyone to have a seat at the table in this community. And I think this year, for better or for worse, it made a lot of people open their eyes to civic duty and activity. And so that's the benefit of what happened this year. People started following the select board meetings. And just like I said, this morning I was at a young mother's house, and she had other folks over, obviously, and we were all chatting, and I was urging them, they really little kiddos, 2 to 5. I'm like, once they're in school, and everyone's working nowadays, but I'm like, look at the committees, go online and see and participate. Look at something you want to do and get involved, because I want a whole crop of, everyone's younger than me at this point. So these people were babies to me, they're probably 35. But anyway, the whole point is, once they're kiddos in school, I want a whole crop of folks to be running for office, running for select board. So, all the boards should represent what the town looks like, and they don't. So we definitely need that. We need that. And how will we do it? I don't know, social media, advertising, just word of mouth, but I want people to be involved. We're working it.
Okay, we're gonna go to Tom next.
Here you go.
So can you repeat that question? So
Sure. What steps can be taken to support more productive engagement of residents in town government?
Well, actually, we have been trying to do that. When I became chairman of the select board, I instituted the public comment section. We opened up office hours. We've started a website so people can get on the website. We made the website very usable, very easy to navigate. So by doing that, I think we opened up a lot of doors for people that would not normally see what we're doing. But the most important part to me is being able to reach out to have these, as much as I want it, but not very good. But the open office hours have become very effective, and so you come in, people can reach you. You can listen to their concerns, and you can guide them along. And then we have a great select board office too. If anybody has questions, they call the select board, and these roles will help them to walk them through anything.
So next we'll go to Rita.
Okay, this is my favorite question. So what steps can we take to make it more productive for engagement in town government? We need to make it fun. We need to make it fun. We need to communicate. We need to get civic engagement. We need people to really care and to understand what the issues are. And I'm going to tell you myself, raising a family, going to school, working full time, the government just ran. And that was okay with me. But I don't think that applies anymore. And that's just for the whole country, not just us. And so for me, for my campaign, I like to make new rules. And so what we have been doing is we have been having fun, trying to get people engaged, excited about the ability to vote. And, voting is your right, but some people don't take their opportunity to vote because they're not interested or whatever's going on. We're trying to get them engaged in the issues, listen to what's going on, and make it fun. This is your right. This is your country. And we have positions in government, things that you can do to make it a great place for all of us. So I say, make it fun, take to the street, dance, and enjoy yourself. That's me.
Thank you, Rita. So, should there be a change in the makeup of the board as a result of an upcoming election, what steps would you take to support the development of productive working relationships on the select board?
So,
And we'll start that one with Trish.
so
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm happy to skip it.
We want to know if you're having fun too.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, I was quite okay to dance around that one. So, as Tom mentioned, this current select board has made several changes to allow us to hear from our citizens. We allow public comments at our meetings. We have instituted open office hours, which have never been done before. We have changed the meeting time to better accommodate our citizens. We have an online portal for citizens to submit comments or questions if they're unable to get it out at public comment or during the office hours. The office hours that we offer are varying times to try and accommodate everybody's busy schedules. We changed the meeting time to better accommodate our citizens. I have met with several citizens on my own personal time. When citizens give us questions or concerns, whenever it is possible for us to respond to them, we try to follow up with them. An example is there was a question about certain mitigation accounts and how that was run. In the very next meeting, we put a presentation together to try and answer that question.
So with that, I'm going to switch to a different question because my next one is about mitigation accounts.
All right.
You'll let us right into that one.
All right.
So mitigation funds provide much needed flexibility for the select.
We didn't, so what about
We didn't get
the
into
other
the
question?
question.
I'm going to connect.
Oh, okay,
Oh, okay.
I just thought since he mentioned mitigation funds,
Okay.
that I just go there.
segue into that.
Oh, moderator's privilege here. Mitigation funds provide much needed flexibility for the select board. And I think if any of you were to run a large company, you know that if you walked into this budget over here and you got nothing else, that you're going to have a real challenge, right? You need flexibility, you need funds to deal with emergencies, other kinds of things. That said, I think Mike sort of introduced us to this, that mitigation funds often have felt like they're behind the curtain and folks don't know what they are, how much there is, and more importantly, how decisions get made about spending them. And so the question is, there is a question in here, how would you prioritize what the funds are used for, particularly in those cases where it's not prescriptive? And secondly, do you feel there should be citizen input into setting those priorities and making decisions about how mitigation funds are used? And with that, we're going to go to Rita first.
Okay, so
How would we prioritize using the money when it's not scripted? And the second part of that was?
Is, do you feel there should be input from the citizens on what those priorities are?
100% on the second part of that question. So that was easy. I love easy questions. So how would you prioritize? Well, I would take a look at what the needs are of the town. I would imagine that we have some kind of a capital assessment of buildings and whatever that need to get done. And the mitigation funds, my understanding is that like from the billboards and stuff like that, what does the community need? And, what are the long-term, short-term goals? And what do they cost? And what is the community? What's important to the community? I mean, that money comes in and the community should have input on how it's spent. So I don't have a list of priorities, but I think that whatever the community decides and the town as well, it's a collaborative effort, that is how we determine how we spend the money and maybe even create a policy around it if we don't have a policy, because it doesn't sound like we have a policy. I have 1 minute left. So, and I'm all for spending money, but that's it. Okay, I'll yield to you, Mike.
And I am now checking off names, so I will not skip anybody next time. So Mike, you're next on this.
Okay. So, the select board was elected, to be the executive level of government and make these decisions, on how this money gets spent. Mitigation funds are used, for one time only. They're not to supplement a budget, certainly not for, any payroll issues. It's to allow the town to be urgent and agile and react to something, that needs to be addressed. So, for example, the town owns Copperworks, and we are planning a unit in Copperworks, and we're planning on selling that, and the proceeds go to the Affordable Housing Trust. In order to do that, we were advised that if you bought a parking space, that would greatly increase how much money you could sell the unit for. So we used mitigation funds, $10,000, to buy a parking space. That money is all going to go back because we expect to reap the benefit of having a parking space that will increase the sale price of that house. So that's what we use for the mitigation, projects like that. If anybody remembers driving on Randolph Street by the cemetery all the way up to Braden Circle past the Mass Hospital School, the road on the right-hand side was all potted and it was a bad road to drive on. We used mitigation funds to try to quickly pave that so it didn't have to wait for funding from the state or anything like that. Mitigation funds, anytime we're spending that, it is discussed at a open meeting. There are no backdoor deals or anything like that. And that's why we use mitigation. It allows the select board to be urgent and agile and address issues as they come up.
Great. We'll go to Trish next.
Thank you, Mike. And I love those words, urgent and agile.
Yeah.
Because it's, so I'll tell you a quick story, it relates. So in 1998, I spoke before the select board. I was hugely pregnant with my daughter. I didn't know, I should have known, but my street's a cut-through street, but I was never home. I was always working. So after I had my son, when I was walking him, I was practically getting moved down by cars. We didn't have a sidewalk. So I spoke before the select board. I said, I want a sidewalk. How do I do that? And they said, get a write-in article for town meeting. And so I rallied my neighbors around me. I was too shy to speak, so Christine Sullivan spoke for me. And y'all paid for my sidewalk with mitigation funds. So that was not you. So not, but thank you to John Conley was there then and others. And yeah, so I like the urgent and agile definition of that fund and its usage because it saved us in a pickle. And I'd like to continue with that usage. I'm always under.
Tom.
Pretty much like pretty careful what their mitigation funds are for and how they're used. Just so people know, some of the other things that we have used them for just recently is the signage on the train bridge. Keeps on getting hit. We need the money. We need the money right away. It's nothing that we go sit and wait on. That money came out of mitigation to put those signs up to avoid those accidents. Mitigation money was spent on this. A little bit of the mitigation money was spent on the traffic light at the corner of Church Street and Washington Street. And the reason being because of one of the complaints which we always get about traffic is in the center of town. So money was spent there with a little bit of study into put like the left-hand turn there, and it's been successful. Now, if you notice, you come down Washington through the center of town, traffic isn't backed up to the mall anymore. It's pretty much almost to the Elsie's restaurant right now, and it moves right along. So these are some of the things that you have to act on something, and the best way to do that is you have the funds available and say, let's get it done. So, and everything is accounted for, and it's done in an open meeting.
Thank you. So let's get back to that question, and we're going to start with Trish. And I'll repeat it again. Should there be a change in the makeup of the board as the result of the upcoming election, what steps would you take to support the development of productive working relationships on the select board? And I want to just say, it doesn't mean everybody has to agree. So I'm really just talking about productive relationships, working together to get things done for our town.
Of course, there should be a change on the board. That's why I'm running for election. But anyway, one of the things I would say is, we need to rebuild trust in our community. There's a chasm a mile long and 10 feet deep. And so, one of the ways we could do that is, thanks for your public, 15 minutes at the end of the meetings, but really listening to everyone's comments, writing them down, responding to all of them at the next meeting, if necessary, or meeting the people after, so that we can sort things out and get back to a place where there's trust in our community. There's that. I've never worked with Mike, you guys are up for re-election, so I've never worked with John Conley or JR or Chris Albert. I don't know how we will get together, but I have met with the town administrator, and I've asked him to explain to me the process by which everyone gets their information and how much time there is to research it. And I will come prepared to every meeting and have, and I'll also reach out to the town administrator and his staff in order to know what's going on prior to the meeting. So I'll be able to make my own decisions, and hopefully we'll be able to work together. But anyway, I want to build back trust when I'm on that board. Thank you.
And we'll go to Rita next.
Okay, so what steps? Yeah, okay. So I do think I have a great relationship with the board right now. And I do work collaboratively. I've had private conversations with Tom. I've had private conversations with Charlie. And I do reach out and I do show respect. And respect is very important to collaborating. It starts with respect and then building trust and then agreeing on what the game plan is, agreeing on what the facts are. And if you can bring back, make sure policies and procedures are adhered to and incorporate maybe some of the best practices of the corporate world, the private sector, into the public sector. But it is really mutual respect for each other, letting people speak, listen, giving them feedback, even when feedback is not perhaps wanted. We need to be able to listen and hear things and correct action if we need to. So I've worked for 30 years in my professional career. I've worked collaboratively and I've been able to turn around business areas and deliver exceptional results. I'm very proud of my career, and I would not have been able to achieve the results that I've achieved if I wasn't able to collaborate and work with different people. I've worked with different people throughout all of this, and some of them I had 30 seconds. So anyways, I don't anticipate any problem working with anyone in a productive manner, because we're all looking for the same thing. We all want the best for Canton, and we want to make it fun.
So we'll go to Mike next.
So I have the good fortune of working with multiple committee members as a public servant. When I started on the school committee, it was 3 men and 2 women. And when I left, I was the only man with 4 other women. I have disagreed with many of my committee members on many topics. I still speak with one of my former committee members, and although she and I have disagreed in the past, it's always good to run things by her, because she will give me a perspective that perhaps I wasn't seeing, and vice versa. On the select board, I have lost the votes that I have felt passionately about, but that's government. So I am one member of a board, I have 1 vote, and if I am voted down, that's fine, we move on to the next thing. At all times, I try to be respectful to all my committee members, regardless of their feelings on a topic that I might be passionate about. I will continue to do so.
And we'll go to Tom.
I think one of my biggest qualities and my best qualities is I'm able to work with people. There's been a number of meetings that I've run into with a certain idea saying, this is the way I would like to see it done. And then to hear the other conversations and say, well, okay, maybe I'm not right here. So you have to have the ability to listen to them. Now, no matter who is on the board, I think it was Trish that you said, it's the most important thing that whatever you do, it's always in the best interest of the board. You don't always have to agree. As a matter of fact, the board that always agrees is not a effective board. You have to have different opinions. You weigh things out. And you say this would definitely be right for Canton. This is the best thing for Canton, and then you take your position.
Thank you. So this is our last question before we do the wrap up.
Thank God.
Yeah, I thought you had the mic. No.
Is that called a hot mic? So what do you see as the top 3 issues facing Canton today? And I hate to say it, Tom, but we're starting with you.
Well, the 3 top issues that are facing Canton right now is the financing over the next few years. It's going to be tight, so we're going to really have to tighten up our belt. Again, like I said earlier, state funds, the projections of state funds are going to be way down. The expenses are going up, so that's going to be a big thing. We want to try to keep the services that we have, so that we can maintain those services. The biggest part of that I think the problem we have in this town is the lack of communication on what is going on in this town. We're a community, and this has bothered me to no end. To the point where I tell you want to go on a good weight loss program, get on the select board. I lose sleep over this. This Canton has never been like this. So what I just want to do is we have to put emotions aside. We have to work together as a community. We have to stop with filing anyway on Facebook, or we have to stop working as neighbors.
Thank you. Trish, we might as well go to you next. We'll just move the mic down the table.
Thank you. So I share with Tom, because again, I've been meeting with different folks in the town hall. Yeah, budget is an issue because the state, we anticipated receiving more from the state and we're not getting it. So it's going to be tight. As we all know, pensions and healthcare rise and so there's that. So there's always that balancing act and that cash flow management act. And then regarding the item I mentioned earlier, trust, we need to rebuild trust in our community with the select board, with the police department. And we will do that and we will come back together. And by the way, I think we have a great community. We, it's beautiful. We have lots of green space. And one other thing I'd say is smart growth, because we're not going to ever let go of green space for being so close to the city. I just think we have a really good community. It's beautiful and great school system and great tax rate. So I sound like a real estate agent, but I mean it. I think, we should all count ourselves lucky to live here. And I just, So those are big issues facing it. To you, my dear.
Thank you. So it's comforting to know that the other candidates also feel similar. So money is tight, trying to stretch the dollar as far as we can. Cost of everything has gone up. So to build anything that we're trying to build, the costs have gone crazy, crazy high. And there's only so much money in so many competing interests. When department heads were in front of the select board asking for money, lobbying for their departments, they were all valid requests. And you'd like to be able to say, of course you need additional staffing, of course you need this, we want to help. But trying to stretch that money as far as we can is a challenge. Trust is absolutely an issue that needs to be worked on in this coming year. I think misinformation gets spread too easily and it prevents us from being able to work together. And that's what we need to do to start to rebuild the trust. And then how is Canton moving in a positive direction? The Galvin Middle School project is a big passion of mine. What we end up doing with St. Gerard's, revitalizing our downtown, trying to attract more businesses, are all things that the select board should be working on in the coming years.
Okay. Rebuilding trust, let's say we got 4, big. So rebuilding trust is huge, and ensuring our community is safe. Those are the two, they're together, and they are the two things that have really been eroded the last few years. And we need to rebuild trust. We need to make people feel safe. I frankly don't feel safe. I have now I have a $1,000 security system on my home that I've never had before because I received threatening letters for speaking out. So we really need to rebuild trust. Also, with my background, I've had an incredibly successful career. I'm in my semi-retirement years. I left the professional world about 7 years ago, and I work my job right now. I love it. I mean, I love all my jobs, but this is my semi-retirement job. With my professional expertise, I would like to incorporate the best practices of the business world into our government. That's what I think we need to do. That's what I think is lacking. That is what I have seen from spending 10 years working with our states. They are behind us in modernization. The private sector is way ahead. Trust me, I have been on many initiatives. The private sector is way ahead than our public sector. And the last thing I had, which I just lost my thought, was community building. So we need to rebuild trust, adopt the best practices, make sure that we are financially responsible, and rebuild our community. When people don't follow the best practices, I just want to go back to that. When people don't follow policies and procedures, morale goes down. And then it makes the whole team look bad, when in fact, it's not the whole team, it's just a portion of the team. And so by making sure that we have best practices and people are following policies and procedures, we're not losing money because your good people are just taking it away from me. But so we're not losing money because when morale goes down, that costs us money. When people are happy, I know. I'm sorry, Mike, it's not quite like your timer.
Rita, how long are the select board meetings gonna be with you?
Alrighty. So it's good to see you all getting along. So we are going to now move to closing comments, and we're going to give you each 2.5 minutes to make your closing remarks. So this is your opportunity to let our voters know why they should vote for you, what's important to you, and moving forward if you were to be elected for the select board. And with that, I'm going to start with Trish.
Come on, you're killing me. Jeez.
They are kind of random.
You just kind of dropping those bombs on me left and right. Okay. So it's kind of everything I've been saying tonight. What do I want for Canton? We'll start with the concrete things, like the rec center that is St. Gerard's and changing the voting spots. But the biggie for me here tonight is what matters is getting our community back together as a whole. And so hate to use the word, started with it and end with it is trust. And also what I didn't mention, because I always have a fit of nerves when I sit in front of a group of people and chat, is I want to mention inclusion and diversity and welcoming to our community. I want everyone, like I said, I want to see the table from the person who moved here yesterday to the people who've lived here their whole lives. We're all part of this community and we should all participate in it. And so everyone should feel like they're part of this community. And I'll do whatever it takes to make that happen. I can't think of anything else. I
This
really
is
want to
your
say.
chance to all of you to ask for the voters.
Oh, yes. So yes, my name, I go by Trish Boyden. On the ballot, I will be Patricia Boyden. So that is also me, just so you know, that's Trish's nickname. And yes, I'd love to have your vote. And if you have any questions, please see me after this meeting. Thank you.
And let's go to Mike next.
I have had the good fortune of serving you as a member of the select board for the last 5 years. I have always been honest, hardworking, and respectful. I truly love this town, And as a result, I have met with citizens on my own time to talk through issues, worked with boards and committees to help get projects done, volunteered my time and effort in supporting our veterans. Canton has a lot to be proud of. We have great schools, our home values are high and our taxes are low. We have great town employees, a rich history, and some amazing open spaces. The town has some big projects coming, hopefully a new middle school, a Paul Revere Discovery Museum, the repurposing of the St. Gerard's property, and working to revitalize the downtown district. I am an experienced public servant that has demonstrated my ability to work with others to accomplish the goals that make Canton the great town it is. I hope you will support me in this upcoming election and allow me to continue to work for you. Thank you.
And Rita? Okay, what was the question again? No, I know, it's a wrap up. It's a wrap up. Okay, 2.5 minutes. This is good. So, listen, I love Canton. I love it. I love it. I love it. I have loved it since I was a child. My dad brought me here. My parents brought us here. We went and visited his relatives. I swam at Oliver Pond when it was a pond, and still a pond. But I love Canton. My ancestors were here, and I raised my family here. My children, Michelle's 29, Tristan's 27, and I love this town. I've never been engaged in government. Government, I never had time for, and now I made time for it. The things that have been going on that I became aware of this last year required my attention. And I knew I had the expertise to help us heal and bring us back. I knew I had the expertise. And people had been asking me for months to run for select board, and I declined because I have a 90-year-old dad who I almost lost a year ago, but I nursed him back to health, which I'm so grateful for. And I have an aunt that's going to be 95 in April, and I know my time with them is limited. And, but at the end of the day, I knew that I had what it takes to help this town heal, to get us back, and to get people happy again. And so that is why I'm running for select board. I have 1 minute. So that is why I'm running for select board. You have maybe seen me out on the streets. You've maybe, I have friends that come from all over, not just Canton. And I have to tell you, this last year, with everything going on, I have met the best people in this country. I have met people with so much heart. It doesn't matter what their political affiliation is. People are standing for what is right and truth and justice, and they are loving people and they are fun people. And anybody who tells you otherwise hasn't spent a minute with these people. And so I am grateful that I have the skills to help us get back on track, but I am also grateful for all the wonderful, beautiful people that I have met this last year that have come into my life and I now call family. And I hope that you'll vote for me, Rita Lombardi. That's Rita Lombardi again, for select board, Rita Lombardi. Let's do it. And now we will go and wrap it up at Tom Theodore.
Thank you. Well, this year, as the select board chair, it's been challenging at best. However, throughout this turmoil and havoc, I remain steadfast in running the business of the town. It's been difficult on many levels. However, I have stayed the course. This town still maintains a AAA+ bond rating. We have a balanced budget without compromising the necessary services. I know a lot of the things we talked about earlier, but we have, without compromising any of the services in this town. In the past, people have said to me, do your job. We are doing our job. So, and I'm proud of it. We have to make some tough decisions this year. We have to make sure our budget's balanced. Again, getting back to the forecast revenue, and it's only going to get tougher. And I think we need the experience to navigate these waters to get us with these tough times. On a personal note, like I say, I grew up in this town. I love this town. People that know me, I'm approachable. You can sit there and talk to me for an hour. I will listen to people. and I hear them, and I will do anything in my power to help them get through a situation. And that's why I ask for your vote, and I would really appreciate it. I would love to continue to serve this town. Thank you.
And you can applaud now if you want to. Before we wrap up, I do want to make a couple of comments. I first want to note that we do realize that it was confusing today about whether this event was going to be available in person or not. Rita referenced safety and security, and there was at one point during the day some concerns. And we felt that the organizing group felt a commitment to making sure that both our candidates and our audience was safe. We also know that this is a public event that was posted publicly and needed to be open. So I want to say thank you to everyone here in the room for the demeanor that you brought to this, how cooperative you were in ensuring that this event went on the way it was intended. And for those who were not able to get here in person, either because of our communication or because they weren't able to get here anyways, it will be on cable. So please make sure you watch. I want to say a thank you to the Canton Voters Guide team. I think they've done an amazing job. I want to thank the Lions Club and also Canton Community Cable for being here and filming this event. And lastly, a thank you to our candidates, both our candidates for the Board of Library Trustees who were here earlier, most of them are still here, as well as our candidates for the Select Board. As someone who served 2 terms on the school committee and now chairs the finance committee, I greatly appreciate what it takes to run for public office and to serve our town. It is a big commitment and an important responsibility. To the audience, again, thank you for being here. Every local elections matter. They matter a lot. Every vote counts, and informed voters are essential to good government. So please have a good evening and be sure to go to the polls. Thank you.